This is the Shotgun City Sheriff, the law himself, Clayton Clark.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Kennedy, a.k.a. Mr. Anderson.
This is the Young Titan, Aaron Atlas.
Hey, this is Matt Brannigan.
This is the Warbound Hellhound, Bo Sword.
This is your favorite drunken pro wrestler, a.k.a. the Bud Light Brawler, Dalton Davis.
This is Lizzie Six.
This is Jake Something.
And this is the jaw-jacking, back-cracking, God created all men equal, and then he made me the sequel, Rohit Raju, and you are listening to the Spot Show Podcast.
Spot Show Podcast.
The Spot Show Podcast.
Spot Show Podcast.
The Spot Show Podcast.
Spot Show Podcast. Hell yeah.
The Spot Show Podcast.
The Spot Show Podcast? Yeah, that's right, I stuttered. Shut up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Spot Show Podcast, an independent wrestling podcast with a few pit stops along the way after a long double shot weekend. I, of course, am Dickie Wabash. I'm looking over here at this tired, haggard man. That is Michael Madrox. We were hitting the roads hot and heavy this weekend, and you're going to hear all about it, Madrox.
Dickie Wabash, no more CKY movies for you over the weekends.
Why? Because I said haggard?
Yes.
I would have said haggard regardless, because like
you
that's
would
just,
not have.
No, I absolutely would have, because like that's literally the way that we feel and look. That's the definition of
We're still trying
haggard.
to catch up on our lifestyles over this weekend.
Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. Before we got together to record, I had a hard time kicking out of that nap that I took, because hoo boy,
Got you down for the 2.5, huh?
it was definitely just getting caught up from sleep from this weekend, man. That's what I'm talking about. You know, we're the road warriors, brother.
Which we're at home every night, but it's the same fact. Like,
it's not even a matter of, I mean, I was in my own bed every night. That's not the point.
it's the coming down from that adrenaline rush and the endorphins and all that, and just the brothering, and it's crazy to explain to people that are not in the business.
A good wrestling weekend feels like, I would say, 5-day weekends, roughly.
Yes.
To me. Like, a good wrestling weekend feels like that you're just nonstop go for 5 days, and then you look at your time and you're like, oh my God, it's only Saturday at 5.
Yes.
Like, I've already been doing all this stuff on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But, of course, guys, this is the Spot Show Podcast. Each and every week, Michael Madrox and I get on here and we complain about how old we are and how crazy it is to be
Decrepit.
in the world of wrestling. If you like what we're doing here, you can go on over to patreon.com/MadBash Studios. You can back us at that $5 and above tier, and you are going to get all of our shows completely ad-free and early. But that's not all. There's tons of other exclusive content over there that you can get at patreon.com/MadBash Studios for less than a cup of coffee, man. I'm telling you, it's the best deal in independent wrestling right now. But there's other ways that you can support us.
How's that, Dickie Wabash?
Oh, you can go to madbashstudios.com. There you are going to find links to all of the favorite podcasting platforms. Go on those podcasting platforms. Leave us a 5-star written review. We would very much appreciate that. There's also links to our YouTube channel. You can go subscribe to that. You can like us on Facebook. There's links to all of our socials on madbashstudios.com. And we've got some big news talking about YouTube. It's time for some plug skis, brother.
Here we go, baby.
Ascend the Throne from March of this year that you heard us talk so lovingly about on Page Show last week. Ascend the Throne is now available on our YouTube channel. You can go on over there, witness the coronation of Chris Cutler. You can see one of the best tournament shows that I have ever seen. Great matches all around. It was incredible. It's a night that even when I still think about it all these months later, I still get goosebumps.
And it's all for free.
All for free for the first time. For a while it was over on Patreon, but now to celebrate the 1 year of MadBash Wrestling, we have made it free for you on YouTube. We've also got a new episode of Enough of This in your podcast feed. We watched episode 4 of Tough Enough Season 1. Fire broke out in the house, Madrox.
Stephanie's back, brother.
Stephanie's back, brother, and people are starting to drop like flies. You can hear all
including
about
Trish
it.
Stratus.
Apparently, including Trish Stratus. You can hear all about it over at on the newest episode of Enough of This, a wrestling reality show podcast. And of course, this episode is brought to you by Venom Energy and Elite Pro Wrestling. Speaking of Elite Pro Wrestling, we've got some dates for you. We got some dates for you. We got a date coming up this Saturday. You can find us at Elite Pro Wrestling. That's going to be the 24th. We're going to be at Elite Pro Wrestling. Chris Cutler has issued an open challenge for his MadBash Wrestling Heavyweight Championship, and I just made the cardinal error. I called it a Heavyweight Championship. I don't like to call our belt a Heavyweight Championship.
It's not a Heavyweight Championship.
Because I feel like that it pigeonholes it.
Yeah, this
You know what
belt's
I mean?
equal opportunity
This
for
is
everyone.
an equal opportunity belt, man. Yeah. So, yeah, Chris Cutler's issued an open challenge for the MadBash Wrestling Championship. Let's see who can answer that challenge.
Could you
this
imagine
Saturday.
a female wrestler stepping up to Chris Cutler and dethroning him?
Could happen. You
All right.
never know.
There's so many options with that, man. Open challenges are scary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing is, Cutler really has to have his head on a swivel, especially when he's issuing an open challenge because, he's trying to step up to Kendall Fire, trying to do what Kendall Fire is doing, trying to prove that he's just as good of a champion as Kendall Fire is, of course, the EPW heavyweight champion. And, I love Cutler, but don't get a little bit too big of a head. You know what I mean?
It's like he's mocking Kendall Fire right now.
He is. So, Michael Madrox, let's talk about this weekend. Incredible time.
We can't talk about those stories on live microphones, Dickie Wabash.
There's a thing called Paid Show. There is a thing called Paid Show. There's going to be some stuff talked about on Paid Show over on Patreon that you're not going to be able to hear that we talk about here. But, so, we're going to talk about our weekend this weekend because this was a really solid wrestling weekend. But then on the back half of this episode, we've got something special for you guys. As you know, we love to rank things on a 5 out of 5 scale.
Oh.
So what Michael Madrox and I have done is that we've gone through and given you examples of what we think a 5 out of 5, a 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5, and so on is. So you're going to hear a little bit about that in the back half of this episode. But first, let's talk about it, man. We started out with Hybrid Championship Wrestling. In the hometown on Saturday. The day started a little bit early, though, because we had the grizzled veteran himself, Oliver Kane, rolled into the studio and we hung out with him. If we were smart, we would have recorded a podcast with him again, but we didn't think about doing that.
No, we didn't just shove a microphone in his face.
No, because that's not what it's about. And I was like,
I'm going to tell you what, though.
yeah.
Driving to that show with Oliver in the car.
Yes, because we drove
that was
separate.
like a trip down memory lane. He's like pointing out old businesses that used to be there, and he's like, "You remember when blah 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 was there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, oh my god, I do." And I never even thought of those places and everything. So like, just driving around Terre Haute with Oliver Kane would be a podcast to enjoy for everyone.
Yeah, because I think people forget that like Terre Haute is Oliver Kane's old stomping grounds. You know what I mean? And he felt like it was kind of a little bit of a homecoming for him because he went to the hybrid show with us. He didn't compete, but he sat at the merch table with us. He got to catch up with some people. He got to catch up with Jake Painter. He got to catch up with Christian Rose. He got to catch up with all sorts of people, and
Travis
Weir. Man, getting to make the reunion of Christian Rose and Travis Weir happen is one of the coolest things that I have gotten to do lately since I've been back because, we're coming up on almost 11 years, roughly, since that Ascension to Greatness tournament took place where Travis beat Rose.
Yes.
So to I was in the back after the hybrid show and, I'm sitting with Rose and I'm like, yeah, me and Travis Weir. And he said, okay, so I did see him. He is here, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, come with me. Let's go find him. So I was like, Rose and I are just walking around the building, like outside trying to find him because we heard he was outside. And then we walk back in and he was inside. So,
Travis is very sneaky for a big man.
For a big guy, he really is. So to get to see that reunion between old road buddies, I mean, that is just,
it's great, dude. This whole
rivals.
weekend was full of a lot of reunions. Like, this was my first time seeing Rose in a while.
Yeah.
Jay the Tank Oleander showed up.
I was going to get there, yeah.
Travis Weir was there.
Yep.
And then the next night, Rage was in attendance. So
Yeah,
it's like people from my past coming out and like still supporting professional wrestling. It's cool to see.
Yeah, it is. And I think that, there's this old thing of like, oh, you leave the business and you want to leave the business behind. But I mean, like some of these guys, these are guys that I got my start with. And like, to get to see them again, I feel like was pretty solid, to be standing at that merch table and see Tank walk in. I was like, oh shit, man. Like I've been in this same building with you when you were wrestling, and the same goes for Travis. And, Rose was talking about, the last time that he was in that building wrestling was probably 12 years ago.
Really?
And it was in August as well. It was Ascension to Greatness as well. UWC Ascension to Greatness. And, that recently what's funny about it is I found that full show on that hard drive that I was talking about.
Yeah.
So I was able to show him clips from that, and he was like, wow. He's like, man, that's crazy. And then even Cobra, a couple shows before, I was showing him that, and he's like, man, that's wild, But yeah, it was just really cool to be on that hybrid show, and to sit and watch a show with Oliver Kane, I think is one of the few things that I really value. You know what I mean? Because Oliver just has a way of explaining things and looking at things from a different lens, whether it be positive or negative. Like he's able to point out things that maybe
you don't notice.
I don't notice. But there was something about that show very specifically that was special for you. So get into it, Madrox.
Dickie Wabash let me go to the gas station beforehand, and I got a nice monster.
Okay.
No, little Logan Madrox, his first homecoming show, brother.
Yeah, his first local show that he has gotten to work.
Hybrid debut, his first tag team match refereed.
Yeah.
His second championship match he's ever refereed.
And then his second tag match that he's ever refereed.
And his first time appearing on IWTV, all in one night.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that kid.
That kid has never reffed a tag match in his entire life, and he refs 2. And one of them was for a tag championship. So he should really be proud of himself. He really should. Uncle Dickie had to get a little bit stern with him, though.
Uncle Dickie did.
And I know how soft that boy can be. It didn't affect him in any way, did it?
Nope.
Okay, I didn't know if maybe later he was talking about Dickie being a dick. No, I mean, it's one of those things of where, by the way, shout out to the Hype. Shout out to
the War Pigs.
Shout out to specifically Avery Hertz. I'll get to that in a minute. So Logan refs his first match, and he's doing shit that is just fucking irritating us. And it's stuff that we've gotten on him before.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk back through the curtain, and he's standing there, and I looked at him, and I said, Logan? Because this is what he does. He hunches over a lot when he's in the ring.
Yes.
No, don't do that. You're the authority figure. Be up. Be loud.
It's not even like a normal hunch. It's like a sideways hunch.
It's like this weird, yeah. So I look at him and I said, Logan, here's what I'm going to tell you right now. I said, if I see you fucking hunch over in that second match, it's going to not be fucking pretty for you, okay? And he goes, okay, yeah. And I said, another thing, I was giving him his advice and giving him his pointers. I was like, get in the people's fucking faces when they're not supposed to be in the ring. Get in here. Get over to me, goddammit.
Yes.
That is something we'll talk about on today's show. And I didn't really rip him a new asshole because, again, he's learning.
Yes.
But I was still stern with him because it's stuff that he has done that I have told him not to do, but he is continuing to do it. So I had to get on him a little bit, and he was fine. He took it in stride, and that's where I was proud of him. So then the second match comes around, and everything that I told him, he fucking listened and didn't do it. And that's what's going to make me proud in the long run, is him actually listening to criticisms and listening to the advice and actually doing it.
Absolutely, man. He's such a fast learner, too, when it comes to it.
And this is where the shout out to Avery Hertz comes in. I'm over talking to Logan, and I hear them say something about the referee. It wasn't bad. It was just a little spot that Logan might have messed up a little bit, you know? And I said, see, Logan, I told you. And then Avery then takes the initiative to come over and start talking to Logan and giving him advice and giving him pointers. And I just stood back and I was like, okay, perfect. And that's what I told Logan. I was like, you should listen to people when they have things for you. You should listen to them. And Avery was really glad to do it. The hype were giving me matches that I should give to Logan to tell him to watch. Because I told him, I was like, hey guys, that's my green kid. Thank you for taking care of him out there. And they're like, oh, of course, man. Like he was, you can tell that he's new, nothing major, just little things. And I was like, little things is exactly what we're working on with him. And to be able to get to do that, I think is just really cool.
Especially when all these guys like respect him enough already.
Yeah, they respect him to the point of where they're not going to rip him a new asshole, know, and like,
they all wanted to see him succeed.
Yeah.
Which is hard to find in like any profession. Like nobody ever wants to help bring the other person up, but like everyone he's around is there for him. And I can't be thankful enough for that. You know what I mean?
I'm always going to be grateful for that too. Like I know it's going to be a different level for you because you're his dad, but he's my green kid, And I was even talking to Rose. I was like, "Did you catch any of the tag matches?" And he's like, "Yes, but not enough to really have any opinions." And I was like, "Okay, I was going to ask you. The ref is my green kid." And he just stopped me and said, "You have green kids now?" And I was like, "Yeah." Speaking of Christian Rose, he looked at me and put the fear of God in me, and he said, "I got a problem with you." He said, "How come you have a podcast and I haven't been on it yet?" So we're going to try to make something happen with him coming.
Hell yeah.
I'm not going to say soon because we don't know when it's going to happen, but Christian Rose is on the list of people I want to get on this podcast.
He'd be a great guest.
So yeah, shout out to Hybrid. It was a really fun time. Them MadBash boys though, we got to keep an eye on them. Clayton got a little bit too carried away, I think, but
he busted our boy up.
I know. That's between those two. That's the thing, is that we can put the MadBash label on them all we want, but at the end of the day, brothers are going to fight. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. We can only do so much.
We put a MadBash logo on Jared Savage. We can't control that subbitch. Come on now.
And apparently now we can't control Clayton.
No.
He's going around bloodying people up. So what was your favorite match of the night at Hybrid? Yeah.
I would have to say Christian Rose
and Ace
Perry.
Christian Rose and Ace Perry had a hell of a main event. Ace is just
stiff and violent,
so good. Rose is so good. It was just like, come on, man. And then now, honestly, my other favorite match was the Hype versus Gorgeous Morgan Taylor and Avery Hertz because of how well Logan was doing in that match. But like, objectively, the best match that night was Rose and Ace. So yeah, man, we got up the next day. We had another booking
in a different state.
Yeah. So Brian Parker spent the night at my house that night. We woke up the next morning. We had our coffee. We watched Haggard, the movie. We were just like, we kind of watched a couple other things too, but I'd never seen Haggard. And I'm a big CKY fan. So he was like, dude, next time I'm in town, I'm bringing Haggard. So we're going to watch Haggard. So, that fucking Rab himself laugh. But yeah, and then we got you. Dalton Roll was with us. We couldn't take Logan with us, but we had HBJ in the carload. Dalton, Brian
Swapped
Parker.
out refs.
Yeah, this has almost turned into our Danville carload. Has become me, you, Brian Parker, Dalton, and HBJ.
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a carload, man.
It is.
That's a fun carload. So then we get to AVW, and this was your first AVW experience.
Very first one, man.
Yeah, let me know what you think.
Oh, dude, just pulling up to the venue and seeing that stage, I was like, oh, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
That reminds me of like 90s WCW. You know what I mean?
It does. It
Like that special pay-per-view style outdoor setting venue.
It feels like the Road Wild setup.
Yes.
Is what it feels like. Like almost exactly. And, we were up on stage doing commentary, and it felt weird because normally we're at the back of the room where no one can see us.
And now we got everyone there looking on us. And by everyone, I mean, it was a packed house.
It was a really solid draw. Shout out to AVW. I got to call a match that night that I have wanted to call for a very long time.
A dream match, you called it.
I would call it's kind of a Midwest dream match. It was the War Pigs, Crash and Burn versus Trauma Unit of Theo White and Devontae Knox. And
They did not disappoint.
Wow, did they deliver. Wow, did they deliver. Get in my goddamn face when I'm in the ring. Well done, paid show again. But yeah, that was good. And then, of course, Clayton wrestled Jimmy Carrot that night, and that was a good one, too. That was like my past and my present meeting each other, and it all happened in the old UWC ring. So it was really like a full circle moment for me. It was really cool.
That's what I told you. Like, in between the entrances, I look over at Dickie, and I was like, did you ever think that you'd be calling a match this close to the UWC ring?
I was like, no. I never thought I would see that ring ever again. Here was my favorite part of the night, though. Shout out to those fucking fried pickles there at the 210 Saloon.
Oh, I thought you were going in a completely different direction because my favorite part of the night was KJ, baby.
Yes. We're going to talk about the fried pickles first. I spilled the ranch all over my fucking
All
pants.
over, dude.
Like terrible. Shout out to Jeremy, the ring announcer. He really took
Hooked
care
you
of
up
me.
with some napkins.
He hurried up. He had Mikhail Murphy run and go get me some napkins. But, dude, and when you spill ranch, it fucking globs onto wherever you spill it.
Oh, yeah, especially in that heat, too.
Yeah. So I was just like, ugh. So I had to like smear it off or whatever.
I saw you pouring the liquid death on your shorts.
I had to
clean
pour
it.
liquid death on my shorts to get some water so I could scrub a little bit. But no, man, fried pickles. Then Kenneth James, man, shout out to that guy. I've known him off and on since I've been in the business. He's in his dad bod era where he's coming out there wrestling.
He's always been in the dad bod
Yeah,
era.
coming out there wrestling in his dudes, drinking a beer, coming to the ring. And he was probably my favorite part of that scramble that he had.
My only complaint about KJ at this show is he was not covered in Tiger Balm.
Absolutely.
That's the KJ I remember.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, it is.
Back in his Revelation days.
Hell yeah. But yeah, shout out to AVW, man. They put on an incredible show. My favorite match of the night was, of course, that tag match, Trauma Unit and the War Pigs. I'm assuming yours is probably the same.
I would go Clayton and Carrot.
Clayton and Carrot is
my
another
favorite.
really solid choice right there. Something weird about the 210 shows that really makes me think about this. Like we talk about Terre Haute and West Terre Haute are like our towns, but man, it's really starting to feel like MadBash's like hometown
is Danville.
Because we do so much there, man.
We're
Like,
always there.
Yeah.
2 different companies, man. I love it.
N and AVW. But yeah, so we're going to be back there in September. I don't necessarily remember the date just
You know that
yet.
cheesy shit we need to do?
What?
Pull up a map on the wall and then put a pin in every town we've actually worked in as MadBash.
It would only be in like a 100-mile radius, though.
But still, that's better than nothing.
Terre Haute, Odin, Washington, West Terre Haute, Danville,
Ohio.
Yeah, it'd be all the way over on this side of the map. But it was just a fun weekend, is the best way to put it. It was just 2 great shows back to back, and it's stuff like that makes you really reinvigorate your love of wrestling.
Oh yeah.
But that's where you got to watch it because it could burn you out, but you just got to keep that strong mental mentality about it. Mental mentality is the dumbest thing I've ever said. But
What do you think the sleeper match of the AVW show was? The one where, like, on paper, you're like,
Rico Jones versus DeCobra.
I was going to say the same thing.
If you want me to be honest with you, Rico Jones versus DeCobra. Rico Jones really fucking surprised me in that, as you know, Rico Jones was one of the original Danville Dreamers. He was in the Danville Dreamers documentary, and now I'm calling one of his matches, and he's working DeCobra, and it's not that bad.
No, man.
It's not that bad.
The triple threat match surprised me, too.
To a point, yeah.
Just seeing Jax fly like that. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, seeing Jackson Morgan do his fucking springboard crossbody or whatever. But yeah, it was just a fun all-around weekend. Got to see some incredible people hang out.
It was hard leaving the 210 that night.
Well, mostly because I got stuck talking to Damian Saint, but yes. It was hard to leave because it was just like, man, like even as I'm getting in the car leaving, I'm still talking to Jimmy Carrot.
Yes.
And I'm just like shooting the shit with him.
And we had to leave the War Pigs inside at the bar. Like, come on now.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even getting to say my goodbyes to them. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Incredible wrestling weekend. If people ever come to me and say, what is it you love about wrestling? I would use this weekend as a good example.
Would you really?
Yeah, I would use it as a good example.
This was a very stress-free weekend for us.
Really, it was.
Which is not very common when we're doing shows, especially double bookings like that.
Yeah.
It was a nice change of pace.
Yeah, to have no stress, have no skin in the game, we just kind of roll in, turn on our microphones, and go.
Yes, sir.
Well, Madrox, we got something that we got to get to.
Oh, no.
We're going to get to it here in just a minute after we hear a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by patreon.com/MadBash Studios. Hey, you there, listening to this. Here's what you need to do. You need to go to patreon.com/MadBash Studios. Not only is it the best way to support MadBash Studios, but it is home of dozens and dozens of hours of exclusive content. Not only are you going to get early access to MadBash Studios podcasts, Spot Show, and Enough of This, but you are going to get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos, videos, exclusive shows, such as Paid Show, such as Untitled Wrestling Commentary Show, and, of course, Past Bash. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can head on over to patreon.com/MadBash Studios, where every piece of content is unapologetically creative. This episode is brought to you by Venom Energy. Hey, we've all been there, and there's nothing wrong with admitting to it. Well, what I mean is that we've all hit that midday slump, and we all need a little push to get us through the rest of the day. Well, what better option to give you a pick-me-up than one of the wonderful flavors of Venom Energy? Venom is what gets MadBash through those long show days, and we know that it can do the same for you. I'm going to sweeten the pot a little bit for you, too. Yeah, come to our merch table when you see us at a show, and with the purchase of a MadBash Wrestling sticker or magnet, you get a Venom Energy drink on us. While supplies last, of course, so you better act quick. We'd like to thank Venom again for sponsoring this episode. Please consume responsibly. Not recommended for children under 18, pregnant or nursing women, or people sensitive to caffeine. So for those of you that know, we every so often like to review retro shows. And we like to talk about matches and give them a ranking. We rank everything on a scale of 1 to 5. So, to give you an idea...
Well, hold on, dude. -7 to 5.
There's also -7 to 5. There's also a -7 to 5, or a -7 ranking as well that we'll get to. But you're probably sitting back wondering, what is the criteria that these guys use? Like, if you could give the perfect example of what a 3 out of 5 is to you, what is it?
Are you asking me right now?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
Like, what is it exactly? So that's what we've done. We have sat down. We have given definitive, this is what we think a 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 3, 2, 1, -7.
Disclaimer, we're nobodies. This is just our personal opinions.
And that's literally what I was getting ready to say, is that this is all, wrestling is subjective. This is just our personal preferences, so that whenever we review things, you can fully understand what we're talking about. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to start from -7 up, or start at the best and work down?
Let's go from 1 star and work up to -7. Because I feel like we're going to spend more time on -7s.
So if we start at 1 out of 5 and then work our way up to 5 out of 5 and then finish with
the
-7.
-7.
Like that. All right, so you go ahead and go first. What is a stereotypical, like a definitive 1 out of 5 match for Michael Madrox?
For me, a 1 star means it's completely wasted.
Now hang on, hold on, dude. It's not stars, because we're not Meltzer.
Okay.
It's just a 1 out of 5.
A 1 out of 5 is a complete waste of time. It's a bathroom break, basically. Like, a good example for anyone that follows the podcast is that spanking match that we reviewed a couple shows back.
Yeah.
That was horrible, a throwaway, and no one's ever going to remember it. No one's going to be watching it, and then 5 years from now be like, you remember that time blah, blah, blah did this in the blah, blah match? Let's go back and watch that.
Now, see, I disagree to a point of where it's so bad that it's like, how could you forget that?
See, that's where it ties into the -7 for me, though, brother.
Yeah. So go ahead and give me a 1 out of 5.
I just did the spanking match. Miss Keebler versus shit, who was it against?
I don't know. You're the one that makes the notes.
I didn't put that part in my note because
definitive notes. You really have dropped the ball here to start out.
Hold on. Disclaimer. These notes were written right after that review episode, and we're just now getting to them.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you an example of what I think a 1 out of 5 is. I put a couple of matches down here. I put Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior from Halloween Havoc 98. And then I also put The Undertaker versus Bill Goldberg
from the Saudi show.
And I think definitively I can say that The Undertaker versus Bill Goldberg is a 1 out of 5 match. If you're looking at the MadBash scale,
yes,
and Dickie Wabash specifically, then a 1 out of 5 is Goldberg versus The Undertaker.
Naomi versus Trinity. That's a 1 out of 5.
They're the same person.
What was her partner's name? Cameron.
Yeah.
Cameron.
So let's go ahead and get into what we consider a 2 out of 5. Now, this is obviously better than a 1 out of 5. Maybe there is some redeeming quality to it, but it's still just not it.
This is like a bad night at the office match.
Yeah.
It's like they tried, either there's no chemistry between the two guys in the ring, something was just off.
Yes.
And I also look at it as like a match that you could remove from any particular show and it would not affect the show's rating overall.
That's actually a very good way to think about it, yeah. Like, just a match that it's like, what necessarily is this serving? You know what I mean? So I put 2 matches down. I would say The Fiend versus Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell,
Ooh.
2 out of 5. And then the other one, I would say the Last Rites match, Sting versus Abyss. And I'm going to go ahead and definitively say that I'm stamping it in stone, the Last Rites match, Sting versus Abyss, because it was just a stupid concept that, why did they even do this? Like, and the crowd was visibly just fucking chanting like, this sucks, blah, blah, blah.
Boring.
Yeah, and the same goes for The Fiend and Seth Rollins, but I'm going to use the Sting and Abyss one as more of an example.
I think the Fiend and Seth Rollins match, the ending ruined that match more.
Yeah, and I think that ending was just so bad that it makes it 2 out of 5.
See, mine here, I'm going to probably shock you because I got 2 of our fucking favorites in this.
Really?
Raven versus William Regal from WWF Invasion pay-per-view.
Really? Why is that a 2 out of 5?
because both guys are hell of workers, but they went out there and just something wasn't clicking, and it was the slowest blah match that you would expect from these two guys.
That's actually, yeah, I get that completely.
And like I said, like it could be removed from that pay-per-view's history, and it's not going to affect anything.
Yeah.
Like before we reviewed it, did you ever think that Raven fought William Regal on a pay-per-view?
No, no, not at all.
Exactly what I go with my rating for that one.
All right, Madrox. So what would you say is the core of a 3 out of 5 match?
A 3 for me is the basic decent match. It could be short or lengthy, but it does what it needs to do to tell the story.
Yes.
And story is very important once you get higher in these stars.
But it's just missing that little bit,
that little oomph.
That little bit of secret sauce that would make it,
stand
that
out
much
for
better.
the test of time.
Yes. So what would you say is your definitive 3 out of 5?
Bret Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid for the WWF Championship on Monday Night Raw.
That's a very specific match.
I mean, it's a solid match.
Yeah.
It's a great match, but why the hell was 1-2-3 Kid challenging for the WWF title?
Yeah.
Like, they got their point across, they got the story across, but at the same time, it's there.
Yeah. It's one of those that's just kind of there. I've written down 2 examples here. I've got that Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, that really bloody street fight that they had. I think that's a really good 3 out of 5. But I think the definitive 3 out of 5 match to me is Edge versus Chris Jericho from WrestleMania 26.
That's a solid match.
I think that's it's same can be go for the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match. Edge and Jericho are 2 of my favorites. Jericho is my all-time favorite wrestler of all time. Edge is somewhere in the top 10. It's fluid. It depends on the day. The hype around that match was there. The story was there, but just something was kind of missing from that match. Like, even though it was a world title match, I think
it didn't have that fanfare.
It just didn't have the, you know what I mean? That Vince McMahon, it's a match that I can go back and watch, and I will still enjoy it, but it's just not quite there. Just not quite there. Like, I think to go back a little bit on like how you were talking about, there's just something missing. There's just something missing from that match, and it's one of those of where you can't quite put your finger on what's missing. That's a good way to describe a 3 out of 5 for us. Now, with a 2 out of 5 or a 1 out of 5, you can definitively look at that and be like, that's what this is missing,
But a 3 is like, it's so good, but it's still just short of that finish line.
Yeah, and you can't quite put your finger on it, which I know that sounds stupid when you're talking about like giving objective reviews or whatever, but that's just a good way to put it.
It could be anything from story to selling. Like, it's just something that just didn't click, and
you just can't put your finger on it. Like we said, with the 2 out of 5 with the Fiend and Seth Rollins, we know the reason that match sucked because of the finish.
The finish and the red light.
Yeah, and the 1 out of the red light. Oh, fuck.
You forgot about the red light.
I forgot about the red light, and then the 1 out of 5, the reason Undertaker and Bill Goldberg's a 1 out of 5, the thing it's missing is the fact that it didn't happen 20 years before.
Same thing with the Brothers of Destruction versus DX.
Yeah. Yeah. So, 3 out of 5s, man. I think that I think the more that we get up into the list, I think it's going to be easier to explain why it's that ranking.
Yes.
Do you agree with me?
And it has been so far.
Yeah. So I would say a definitive 3 out of 5 match on my end is Edge versus Chris Jericho from WrestleMania 26. So
4 stars, baby. Or 4 out of 5. No stars, not Milter.
4 out of 5. So Madrox, let's go ahead and describe a 4 out of 5 match.
All right, dude. I'm going to go with this one. It's got to be a banger. Definitely needs to be long enough for a story. Psychology and spots need to make sense.
Yep.
Fan interaction is needed. And a match that doesn't necessarily need to be remembered, but definitely pops up in the discussion of the greatest matches of all time.
Yeah.
That's my 4-star match.
Yeah. And then I think another thing to counter off of what you said, to just like the 1 and the 2, the 3, we can't really explain what's missing. But with a 4, I feel like it's a little bit easier to explain what is missing that's making it not quite a 5.
Yes.
So I'm going to run down, I have 4 examples.
You have 4 examples?
Yeah.
You
and then
took the notes too far.
And then I'm going to give a definitive one. I'm going to say
You want me to go with my one answer first?
Yeah, go ahead and go
see
with
if this
your
pops
one.
you. All right, dude. This is one of my favorite matches from this era. Raven versus Shane Douglas, hair versus career.
Okay.
At TNA Wrestling.
Okay. And why is it a 4, though? Like, what about it makes it a 4?
Everything in that match was great. It had the story throughout the whole match. The psychology was there. It had the big debut of Vampiro. But it was just missing because they put it on early in the card. And not many fans were invested in Raven as they should have been at this point in his career.
Who was I just hearing talk about this? Where Raven was... Who was it? It was recently at a show. I was talking...
It's probably Carrot.
It could have been... I don't remember if it was, though. It was someone... Because someone was like, oh, I've seen those clips. I didn't know that that's what that was from. But that is a very specific Michael Madrox 4 out of 5 match. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. But I mean, it had everything. And I also put it as a 4-star, not a 5-star, because one spot gets remembered and overshadows the whole match.
The final, the shearing at
and
the
the
end.
reverse
The
shearing where
scalping.
they scalped him.
Yeah. It's a very good way to put it. That's the thing that's missing that could, in your mind, could have made it a 5-star match,
Yeah,
is that people just
absolutely.
remember it for one thing. So I've got 4 examples, as I said. Edge versus Finn Balor in the Hell in a Cell match is a 4 out of 5. Nakamura versus Sami Zayn from TakeOver is a 4 out of 5 match. Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson from Grand Slam in Arthur Ashe Stadium. That's a 4 out of 5 to me. And then Bayley versus Sasha, the Iron Woman match, is a 4 out of 5.
That's a good 4 out of
for me.
5.
That's an incredible 4 out of 5. And I'm going to tell you definitively, setting it in stone, why that's my go-to for a 4 out of 5 is Bayley and Sasha. This was the start of the women's revolution. And it was because of these two that the women's revolution really started. And I think the issue with this match that makes it a 4 out of 5 is that the match before was a 5 out of 5. That Brooklyn match was a 5 out of 5 for me, but that's not on my list.
Yes.
And another thing is anytime during anytime during the women's revolution that they would go out there and do something big, it was immediately, let's give them the literal flowers. And it killed the flow of the match. You know, Sasha had the Bayley superfan crying. She was such a good heel.
She broke her headband in that one,
Broke her
didn't she?
headband, had her crying. So then let's come out and let's be happy and give her the flowers. And it's like, you can give the flowers, you can praise them, but I mean, that didn't need to happen every time. And then it got so much worse whenever they started doing all the stuff on Raw with Charlotte and Sasha, just for the sake of saying it's the first women's main event. It's the first women's Hell in a Cell. It's the first. Yes, this is all stuff that did need to happen. I will 100% agree with it. The women's revolution.
But there was no variety in it.
It's not that. It was that they just did it so that they could say they did it. It had no meaning behind it because they had the first Falls Count Anywhere match on Raw between two women. They had the first Hell in a Cell, like I said. They had the first
tables match.
The first tables main event. But it's like, guys, you're devaluing how important this stuff is, which it was important.
It was, but I wish they
Very
would have
important.
built up to it better.
Yeah, but
Not
I
just
digress.
every pay-per-view, just throwing it out there.
Yes, but I'm starting to get a little bit off track here. But yeah, Sasha and Bailey, I would say, is like the definitive 4 out of 5. It's an incredible match. But again, I don't think it needed the Iron Woman stipulation. I think that kind of that helped the match, but I still don't think it needed it. And then
Iron Man matches are hard to get high ratings for me, though.
Yeah.
Because they could either go really good or really bad real quick.
But see, here's the thing. Kenny and Danielson and Bailey and Sasha, those are 2 30-minute matches on my 4 out of 5 list. I'm going to break the rules a little bit here, but, let's talk about Nakamura and Sammy. Why is that a 4 out of 5 to me? Incredible match. It was Nakamura's debut. It was whatever. But this was a problem with NXT in this era. They were just doing matches just to do the matches.
Yeah, for the IWC.
They were doing it just for the IWC. And I think that took away from the gravity of what that match could have been. But Bailey versus Sasha Banks in the Iron Woman match. And Bailey is probably my favorite women's wrestler of all time. I'm a big Bailey fan.
I would throw another Iron Man match on the 4 out of 5 star
What's
ranking
that?
too. Lesnar versus Angle, SmackDown.
Yeah.
That's a good 4 out of 5.
Yep. I'll agree with you. Big daddy of them all, Madrox.
No, we're not to the -7 yet. Come on now.
5 out of 5. Lay it out for him, Madrox.
Top tier, man. It's got to be one of the greatest matches of all time. This rating needs to be a historical match to me.
Yeah.
Everything moves and clicks wells. Everything needs to be there, from the crowd to commentary to action in the ring, the build up, the hype. Everything has to be set and revolving around this one match to get a 5-star from me.
Yeah. Give me your example.
I hate using this one. I hate it because of who's in it. Hulk Hogan versus The Rock, WrestleMania.
Yeah. That's a good 5 out of 5.
That is a great 5 out of 5 because it had everything that we needed. It had the commentary, it had the fans, it had the moves, it had the storytelling. Everything from top to bottom of that match is a 5 out of 5.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that one. It is one of my wrestling junk food matches that if I need to just, like Dalton said whenever he was on Untitled Wrestling Commentary Show with us, shout out to the Patreon. He was talking, we did Cedric versus Buddy Murphy. And he's like, yeah, this is just, this is a comfort match or whatever. And I think you just look at, this is where it gets weird because, like, technically, is it the best wrestling match ever? Not really.
No, but it's still a 5.
But it's still a 5. Still a 5. The story that they were able to tell with the limited ability of an older Hogan, because Hogan was starting to get up there in age a little bit at that time. And, he was starting to show his age a little bit. And for him to, I guess I should say he was out of his prime. Let's just say that. He was out of his prime. And, how old was Hogan during that match?
Oh, God, I don't even know.
Do a Google. Find out what year Hogan was born or how old he is now. And then we'll do how old he would have been in 2002. Because I think Hogan's the same age as my dad.
I thought he was older than your dad.
No, I think he's the same age as my dad.
He's 71 years old.
He's the same age as my dad.
Born in 1953.
So subtract 22 years from that. I mean, yeah, he was starting to get up there in age.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, here we go, man. 5 out of 5.
He's 49.
He was, that's what I'm saying. He was, he's starting to get up there. 5 out of 5 for Dickie Wabash.
Ooh,
I got 4 examples.
I bet Finn Balor is in at least one of them.
Actually, no.
Really?
I mean, I can probably think of a 5-star Finn Balor match, but
you got Sandman versus Funk, don't you?
The Sandman versus Sabu. No. All right, I'm going to start at the bottom, and then I'm going to say definitively that the top one is the one I'm going to go into with 5 out of 5. Cody versus Dustin Rhodes.
Ooh.
At Double or Nothing. Perfect story. Perfect everything with that match. It was
heartfelt.
AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe, the Unbreakable 3-Way. Just incredible match. Ilya Dragunov versus Walter in NXT UK. Not the TakeOver rematch. I'm talking the NXT UK match during COVID time where there was no fans. And that's where it's crazy because you said the crowd has to be there. There was no crowd for this. And it made that match that much brutal because you could see Walter just picking a spot and slapping it. And the way Ilya Dragunov sold in that match and the way they were just beating the dog shit out of each other in that match, it was hard to watch because of how brutal, real it looked. But definitively 5 out of 5. This is the primo,
I know what you're going to say,
example of a Dickie Wabash 5 out of 5.
The greatest wrestling match ever, Edge versus Randy Orton.
No. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania 26. The rematch. Not the first one.
Not the first one?
But they're both 5 out of 5 matches.
Not the first one?
I literally just said they're both 5 out of 5 matches.
They're both 5. I just can't believe you put the second over the first one, though.
Who said that I did? I mean, I think that they're both easily, 5 out of 5s for me. They just have this, just the performance in those matches. And then you take the performance from the first one. And then you have the story in the second one where this is either the end of the streak or this is the end of Shawn Michaels' career. There were stakes in this one. The other one was just the streak.
Yeah.
And I will be the first to admit I'm not the biggest Shawn Michaels fan. I like him enough. I'm more of a Shawn Michaels guy than a Bret Hart guy. I like Shawn better than Bret.
Agree.
Like Shawn better than Bret. Always have.
Bret's always been boring to me.
Bret Hart is boring. I'm sorry, Bret Hart's boring. Hate me if you want. But I just think that is the perfect wrestling match up until the finish of that match.
I can agree with that.
Like everything is just so crisp. Everything that you described as a 5 out of 5 match, this meets the criteria and then some. So yeah, I don't know how you cannot look at this match and think it's a masterpiece.
All right, Dickie Wabash.
Here we go.
This is the fun one.
The -7 of the night is what we call it whenever we do reviews. -7, Michael Madrox. Explain why it's called a -7.
A -7 is a complete and utter shit show of a match or segment that no one possibly could ever save.
So the reason it's called a -7 is because Michael Madrox just randomly said, I give this thing -7 stars. I don't remember. I think it was the first review that we ever did.
It was the first review we ever did, and it's the match that I put as my -7 of all time.
Go ahead.
Stacy Keibler versus Major Guns in the Camouflage Boot Camp match.
Yeah.
We had everything from miscarriages to a bra and panties match to mud wrestling to David Flair crying. What in the fuck was going on?
Yeah. What do you say? What do you say? I mean, that's not even a wrestling match at that point.
No.
So that's why it's got to be a -7. Like, it's just, fuck,
It's
man.
one of those things you watch, and after you watch it, you're like, they should pay me for my time back.
Yeah.
That's how bad a -7 is.
A -7 is one of those matches that there's just no redeeming quality. Like, even a 1 out of 5. Sometimes a 1 out of 5 can just be a fun bad watch. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I can go back and I can watch, I said one of my examples was Hogan and Warrior from Halloween Havoc, but at least it's funny to go back and watch because of him fucking the fireball spot. Hogan fucking up the fireball spot.
I know a guy that fucked up a fireball spot once before, too.
Who?
He was high flying and Italian.
Oh, I remember asking Zodi about that, and he did not have favorable things to say. So my definitive -7 of the night. Notice I keep saying of the night because that's how I'm used to saying it. A definitive -7 on the MadBash scale.
Crash Holly versus Shofunaki from Velocity, episode 3.
I've got 2 examples. Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler.
That was a WrestleMania double main event, brother.
From WrestleMania 27. But this is the one I'm going with. Sting versus Jeff Hardy from Victory Road 2011.
Oh my God, why would you bring that shit up?
Exactly, that's why, because that's a -7, brother. There's no redeeming qualities about that.
No, except Sting walked out the championship.
That's it.
That's it.
I mean, it has been documented heavily that Jeff Hardy was in an altered state during that match. No shit. But I show no sympathy for that man. And I'm not going to let that sway my opinion of this match and attempt to even make it favorable. Because it's just goddamn it. There's nothing good or redeeming about that match at all.
No, not at all. And they put that on as their fucking main event.
Yeah. But they didn't know it was going to go that south. But TNA should not have hired Jeff Hardy when he was facing international drug charges.
No.
And while I'm here, can we please stop with Jeff Hardy? I'm over Jeff Hardy.
I was over Jeff Hardy after the ladder match with Taker.
I've been over Jeff Hardy for a very long time. He was your favorite wrestler when you were a kid. Jeff Hardy is a fucking one-trick pony. He is always going to be a problem. He is always going to have issues. And I understand addiction is a rough thing, but how many fucking passes are we going to give this fucking guy? I'm serious. Like, how many fucking passes are we going to give Jeff Hardy just because, he's given his body to this business? Imagine if he went out there and he was all fucked up on drugs and dumped Sting on his fucking head.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be laughing then, would you?
Not at all.
Fuck Jeff Hardy. I don't like Jeff Hardy.
Do you think if that was the case that everyone would still give Hardy the pass?
No. That's what it's going to take is for Jeff Hardy to royally fuck something up. But he's already royally fucked shit up. That's the thing. Why do we continuously give Jeff Hardy a pass?
Because he's got charisma.
No, he doesn't. He's high off his ass. Allegedly.
Allegedly, Dickie Wabash.
But goddamn, I mean, and I will be the first to admit, I was a huge Jeff Hardy fan. But the last 15 years, what the fuck has Jeff Hardy done? Truly. He had the feud with Punk. That was fucking okay. That was probably the last good thing Jeff Hardy did.
Yeah.
Was the feud with Punk.
I would have to agree.
It's the last good thing Jeff Hardy did. Other than that, the Hardys are just a fucking nostalgia act. That's all they're ever going to be. They're never going to be a big deal. And poor fucking Matt, who is a good fucking worker, Matt Hardy is a way better fucking worker than Jeff Hardy. I've always thought that. Matt is the one that gets fucked over in that deal.
And he has to live in his brother's shadow.
And what a fucking shadow to live in. And don't get me wrong, Matt Hardy has had his fair share of dumb shit. But the difference is, he cleaned his act up.
You know what tag team doesn't have any trouble out of that era? The Dudley Boys.
Edge and Christian.
The Edge and Lita thing.
But at least Edge isn't fucking going out there getting fucked up and, or Christian's not, doing shit. Like, I would say from that TLC trifecta, the Hardy Boys are the weakest.
Yes.
I would say that.
Even with Devon Afraid of Heights.
Edge and Christian at number 1, Dudley's at number 2, Jericho and Benoit at number 3, and then Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy at number 4. And I mean that.
Who was RVD's partner?
Jeff Hardy.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah.
RVD by itself.
Yeah.
Rhino.
Yeah. Yeah. Hurricane.
Rhino and Spike.
Yeah.
The Young Dragons.
Yeah. Oh, man. What a fun little discussion.
I don't know if they can't see it, but you saw my smile over here, right?
With what?
When we were talking about the -7.
Yeah.
I have a match locally that I'm going to name drop on Paid Show.
Go ahead.
They got to wait for Paid Show, brother.
That's what I'm saying. Go ahead. Do it on Paid Show.
For the -7 match of the night. So if you guys want to find out what I'm talking about, you need to hop on over to the Patreon, brothers.
Let's do it. Let's do it. You love to see that. You love to see that. That's a good wrap up there, Madrox. That's an incredible wrap up. Yeah. So there you go. If you ever have any doubts or any questions about what our scale means, then this is the perfect place to come. We'll always have an answer for you definitively when you can be like, that's a 5 out of 5. It's as good as Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, or something like that.
Or it's as horrible as Jeff Hardy's career.
Or it's as horrible as Jeff fucking Hardy. Dude, Jeff Hardy is a fucking meme.
I got Dickie on a tirade right now. You guys are welcome.
Dude, Clayton and I, all we do is just send each other Jeff Hardy singing videos. That's all we do.
He's such a good singer, though.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is, dude.
Are you fucking with me? Or are you serious?
I'll be the one to beat the spiders.
Clayton and I's favorite one is, I believe in Joe Hendry. Your music rocks. So, God damn it, Jeff. You're fucking terrible. Give it up, dude. But yeah. We're going to go ahead and get off here. We're going to head into Paid Ski, guys. This is going to be an inflammatory Paid show. This is going to be another good one because there is a fucking idiot that needs to stay out of the fucking wrestling business that has reared his ugly head again, and we are going off on this topic on Paid show. Look forward to that. Yeah, all I got to say... is that
Dickie's hot and heated, guys. Hop over on the Patreon. It's going to be good.
This guy is a wild card. That's all I'm going to say. Let's just throw that out there. You can probably piece it together. But yeah, we got a couple other things we're probably going to discuss on there. But for the most part, it's just going to be kind of a free-for-all over there on Paid Show. No real clear topic or not. It's just an extra 30 minutes of content for you guys over on the Patreon. Yeah, so if you're on the Patreon, we'll see you over there. For Michael Madrox, I have been Dickie Wabash, and we will see you down the road on some form of content.